Everything you've experienced in your life, every joy and every pain, every gain and every loss, every blessing and every hardship, has been perfectly calibrated by a force you never knew existed. Right now, as you hear these words, there's an invisible law operating in your life, ancient, absolute, inescapable. It's measuring everything you do, everything you give, everything you take, and it's keeping a balance so precise, so mathematically perfect, that nothing, absolutely nothing, escapes its accounting. You've felt it before without recognizing it, when you hurt someone and later found yourself hurt in the same way, when you gave freely and received unexpectedly, when you took more than you deserved and somehow lost what you had, when justice arrived in ways that seemed miraculous. That wasn't karma in the way most people understand it. That wasn't punishment or reward from some external deity. That was the law of divine balance, an impersonal, unstoppable force as reliable as gravity, as constant as the turning of planets, as unavoidable as time itself. And here's what will change everything. This law isn't punishing you. It's not judging you. It's doing something far more profound. It's ensuring that consciousness experiences every side of every action it takes. It's guaranteeing that whatever you put out returns to you not as reward or punishment, but as education, as evolution, as the universe teaching itself through your experience. Ancient wisdom keepers understood this law. They wrote about it in texts that have survived millennia. They built entire spiritual systems around working with it rather than against it. They knew that once you truly comprehend how divine balance operates, you stop being a victim of circumstance and become a conscious participant in your own destiny. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will explain every unexplainable thing that's ever happened to you, every coincidence that seemed too perfect, every consequence that seemed to come from nowhere, every blessing that felt unearned, every struggle that felt unfair. None of it was random. All of it was balance. And once you understand the law, once you learn to work with it instead of against it, you gain the power to consciously shape your destiny in ways that seem impossible. Chapter 1. The Scales That Never Lie. Imagine a set of scales so sensitive they can measure not just your actions, but your intentions. Not just what you do, but why you do it. Not just what you take, but what you give. Not just your words, but the energy behind them. These scales exist, not in some metaphysical realm you have to believe in, but in the fabric of reality itself, built into the structure of consciousness, operating constantly, measuring everything, ensuring nothing remains unbalanced. The law of divine balance is simple in concept, but profound in implication. Every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. But this isn't just physics. This is cosmic justice. Whatever you put into the world, whatever frequency you broadcast, whatever energy you emit, returns to you in equivalent measure. And here's what most people miss. The balance doesn't care about your justifications. It doesn't care if you think you're right. It doesn't care about your reasons or your circumstances. It only measures the energy, the impact, the frequency of what you've created. You can hurt someone with the best intentions, and the balance will still require you to experience being hurt, not as punishment, as equilibrium, as ensuring that consciousness understands both sides of the experience it's creating. You can give to others while secretly expecting return, and the balance will know. It measures the purity of the action, not the appearance of it. Self-serving generosity doesn't earn the same return as genuine giving. The scales are that precise. This is why some people seem cursed despite appearing to do everything right. They're performing good actions from corrupt intentions. The facade looks virtuous, but the scales measure what's underneath, and the return matches the true frequency, not the visible behavior. And this is why some people seem blessed despite making obvious mistakes. Because underneath the errors, their heart is genuine. Their intentions are pure. The scales measure that truth and respond accordingly. Ancient Egyptians understood this. They depicted the weighing of the heart against the feather of truth, not as literal judgment by a deity, as symbolic representation of this law. Your heart, the truth of your being, is constantly being measured against perfect balance, and the results determine your experience. Every spiritual tradition has described this law. Karma in Hinduism. What you sow, you reap in Christianity. The threefold law in Wicca. Cause and effect in Buddhism. Different words, same principle. What you put out comes back, not eventually, constantly, in every moment, through every experience. But here's where it gets profound. The balance isn't limited to single lifetimes. If you accept that consciousness continues, then the scales continue measuring across time. What isn't balanced in this life carries forward. What you give now might return years from now. What you take today might be collected tomorrow. This explains child prodigies, souls returning with abilities developed in previous experiences. This explains old souls, consciousness that's been through many cycles and carries forward wisdom. This explains instant connections with certain people, recognition of balance to be completed across time. You don't have to believe in reincarnation for the law to operate. Whether it balances in this lifetime or across lifetimes, the principle remains. Nothing escapes the scales. Everything is measured. Perfect equilibrium is the goal. And once you truly understand this, once you internalize that every action, every thought, every intention is being weighed, you start living differently. Not from fear of punishment, but from understanding consequence, from recognition that you're creating your own experience through the energy you emit. Chapter 2. The Currency of Energy. Here's what changes everything about how you understand this law. The universe doesn't deal in money or status or material things. It deals in one currency only: energy. When you give energy, energy returns. When you take energy, energy is taken from you. The form might be different. You might give money and receive opportunity. You might give time and receive healing. You might give love and receive abundance. But the energy value remains equivalent. This is why you can't cheat the balance. Because it's not measuring surface transactions. It's measuring energetic exchange. And energy doesn't lie. It can't be faked. It can't be manipulated. It simply is what it is, and the scales measure it precisely. Think about the people you know who seem to have everything yet feel empty. They've accumulated material wealth, but they're energetically bankrupt. They took more than they gave, and while the external appearance is abundance, the internal reality is deficit. The scales know the truth. Think about people who have little materially, but radiate contentment. They've given more than they've taken. They've enriched others even while having little themselves. And energetically they're wealthy. The scales have balanced in their favor in ways that money can't measure. This is the secret. Stop focusing on material outcomes and start paying attention to energetic exchange. Are you giving more energy than you're taking? Are you enriching interactions or draining them? Are you contributing to the field or extracting from it? Every interaction is an exchange. Every conversation either gives energy or takes it. Every relationship either balances or creates debt. Every transaction either honors the exchange or creates imbalance that must be corrected. And here's what's powerful. You can consciously manage this. You can choose to be a net contributor of energy, to give more than you take, to enrich rather than extract. And when you do that consistently, the scales tip in your favor, not immediately, not always obviously, but inevitably. This is how some people seem to manifest miracles. They're not using secret techniques or special knowledge. They're simply so consistently giving that the universe owes them energetic debt. And that debt gets paid through opportunities, connections, circumstances that seem impossibly fortunate. But you can't fake it. You can't give with hidden expectation of return and fool the scales. The measurement is pure. If you're giving to get, you're actually taking. If you're generous to appear generous, you're actually serving yourself. The scales know the difference. Genuine giving has no agenda. It's pure contribution without attachment to outcome. And that purity creates the strongest positive balance. That's when the return becomes truly abundant, not because you're being rewarded, because the energetic debt the universe owes you must be paid. This is also why taking creates deficit, not just obvious taking like stealing or exploitation, but subtle taking, taking attention without giving it back, taking time without honoring it, taking love without reciprocating it. All of it creates energetic debt that you will pay. And the payment comes in forms you don't expect. You take someone's time consistently, and you'll find your own time wasted by others. You take someone's attention without giving yours, and you'll find yourself ignored when you need to be heard. The form differs, but the energy balances. Understanding this transforms everything, because now you see that your destiny isn't determined by external factors. It's determined by energetic balance. And you control that balance through every choice you make. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to create positive balance or negative debt. Choose wisely, give freely, contribute genuinely, honor every exchange, and watch as the scales tip in your favor in ways that seem magical, but are simply the law operating, as it always does, perfectly, precisely, inevitably. Chapter 3. The Correction Mechanism. Here's something nobody tells you about divine balance. When you create imbalance, the universe doesn't wait until you die to correct it. The correction happens in your life, often in ways you don't recognize as connected to what you did. You betray someone's trust, and months later you experience betrayal that seems to come from nowhere. You gossip about someone, and you find yourself the subject of gossip. You judge someone harshly, and you face circumstances that force you to understand what they went through. The law is teaching you, not punishing you. Teaching you empathy through experience, showing you both sides of every energy you create, ensuring that consciousness understands the full impact of its actions. This is why painful experiences often feel like they're teaching you something. Because they are. They're balancing something you created earlier, even if you can't see the connection. They're giving you the experiential understanding of energy you put into the world. And here's what's crucial. The correction isn't about guilt or shame. It's about balance and education. The universe isn't saying you're bad. It's saying you're learning. You created one side of an experience. Now you must understand the other side. This is actually compassionate, because through this mechanism, consciousness evolves. You can't truly understand something until you've experienced both giving and receiving it, both creating and experiencing the creation, both the action and the consequence. Think about the people who've hurt you most deeply. They're not evil. They're unconscious. They haven't yet experienced the receiving end of what they're doing, but they will. The scales will ensure it. And that experience will teach them what words never could. This is why revenge is unnecessary. The universe will balance what needs balancing. Your job isn't to be the correction. Your job is to not create new imbalance through your response. Because if you hurt them back, you've just created debt that the scales must collect from you. True power is breaking the cycle, experiencing the correction without creating new imbalance in response, taking the lesson without passing on the pain. This is forgiveness at the highest level, not condoning what happened, but refusing to perpetuate the imbalance. And when you do this, when you absorb a correction without creating new debt, you complete a karmic cycle. You free yourself from that particular pattern. You evolve beyond the need for that teaching because you've integrated the lesson. This is also why some suffering seems to serve no purpose. It's balancing something you can't remember, either from earlier in this life when you were unconscious of the impact of your actions, or from previous cycles of experience if consciousness continues across time. But even suffering that's balancing old debt serves a purpose. It's completing a cycle, clearing a debt, freeing you from carrying that imbalance forward. And once it's balanced, it's done. You never have to experience that particular correction again. The key is recognizing when you're in a correction, when life is teaching you through challenge, when you're experiencing the receiving end of energy you once sent out. Because if you can recognize it, if you can receive it consciously, you extract the lesson faster. You integrate the understanding without needing repeated experiences. You say to the universe, I see what I'm learning here. I understand the impact of what I created. I don't need to learn this again. And the pattern completes. But if you resist the correction, if you play victim, if you refuse to see the lesson, you'll experience it again and again until you finally understand, until the balance is achieved, until the lesson is learned. This is the compassion within the law. It keeps teaching until you learn. It keeps correcting until you understand, not as cruelty, as love, as the universe's commitment to your evolution. Chapter 4. Accelerating the balance. Once you understand how the law works, you can accelerate the balancing process. You can consciously create positive balance and clear negative debt faster than waiting for natural correction. This is the power of deliberate giving, of conscious service, of intentional contribution. When you understand that the scales are measuring everything, you can tip them in your favor through consistent positive action. But it has to be genuine. You can't serve others to manipulate the scales. You can't give to get. You have to give purely, without attachment to outcome, trusting that the balance will take care of itself. And when you do, the return is exponential. This is why all spiritual traditions emphasize service, not because being good makes some deity happy, because service is the fastest way to create positive energetic balance. It's literally investing in your own destiny through contribution to others. And here's what's beautiful. You don't need to know what debt you're clearing. You don't need to remember what imbalance you created. You just give. You just serve. You just contribute. And the universe applies it where it's needed in your energetic account. This is also how you can accelerate healing. If you've been hurt, if you've experienced the correction for something you created, you can speed the completion by giving what you needed to receive. You needed compassion? Give compassion to others. You needed understanding? Offer understanding to others. This isn't just nice philosophy. This is working directly with the law. You're balancing from both sides simultaneously, clearing debt by giving what you took, and creating credit by offering what you needed. The scales respond accordingly. But there's a deeper level. You can balance on behalf of others. When you give without any personal agenda, when you serve purely, the energy goes where it's needed most in the collective field. You might be balancing for someone who can't balance for themselves. You might be contributing to collective healing. This is what truly awakened beings do. They give so consistently, so purely, that they create massive positive balance, not just for themselves, but for all consciousness. They become sources of grace, channels through which divine energy flows into the world. And here's the secret. When you live this way, when you become a net contributor on a massive scale, you transcend the law. Not because the law stops applying, but because you're so far on the positive side that consequences stop being corrections and become pure blessings. You've created such positive balance that the universe has an energetic debt to you that it pays through grace, through miracles, through seemingly impossible synchronicities, through doors opening, opportunities appearing, protection manifesting in ways that defy logic. This is why saints seem to live charmed lives despite taking no thought for themselves. They've created such positive balance through pure service that the universe takes care of them automatically. The debt must be paid. The scales must balance. And it shows up as grace. You can do this. You can live this way. Not by becoming a saint, just by consistently giving more than you take, by enriching every interaction, by contributing to every situation, by being a source of positive energy wherever you go. And watch what happens. Watch how life begins to support you, how obstacles dissolve, how solutions appear, how the right people show up, how resources manifest. Not because you're manipulating anything, because you've created balance that must be honored. This is the path, not controlling outcomes, not manifesting specific things, but creating such positive, energetic balance that the universe has no choice but to bless you, because the scales demand it, because the law requires it, because balance must be maintained. Chapter 5. Living in alignment. Everything changes when you truly integrate this understanding, when you stop living randomly and start living in conscious alignment with the law of divine balance. You become aware of every energetic exchange. Every conversation becomes intentional. Every action becomes deliberate. Every thought becomes conscious. Because you understand it's all being measured, all contributing to balance or imbalance. And this isn't burden, this is freedom. Because now you know the rules. You understand the game. You see the mechanism. And with that knowledge, you can play consciously instead of being played unconsciously. You start making different choices, not from fear of consequences, but from understanding of how energy works. You give because you know it returns. You serve because you know it enriches you. You contribute because you know it creates the life you want. You also become more discerning. You recognize when you're being drained and set boundaries, not from selfishness but from balance, because allowing yourself to be constantly depleted doesn't serve anyone. It creates imbalance that must be corrected. You honor every exchange. If someone gives you time, you give time back. If someone offers energy, you return energy. If someone provides value, you ensure equivalent value flows back, not transactionally, but energetically, keeping the scales balanced in all interactions. You stop tolerating toxic relationships because you see they're creating energetic debt. They're taking more than they give. And staying in that pattern isn't love or loyalty. It's choosing imbalance. It's accumulating debt that the universe will eventually collect from you. You become generous without being foolish. You give freely, but not to those who take, without gratitude or reciprocity. Because forcing balance on someone who refuses to honor exchange just creates more imbalance. You can't fix others' scales. You can only maintain your own. You forgive easily because you understand the law will handle correction. You don't need to punish anyone. The universe will ensure they experience the teaching they need. Your job is to clear your own energy, not to become an instrument of their karma. You also become accountable. When you create imbalance, you recognize it. You apologize genuinely. You make amends where possible. You correct your own mistakes before the universe has to correct them for you. This accelerates your evolution tremendously. You stop playing victim because you understand that whatever you're experiencing is either teaching you or balancing something. Either way, it's perfect. It's exactly what's needed for your growth. Resistance is futile. Integration is wise. You trust the process, even when life feels unfair, even when corrections seem harsh, even when blessings seem delayed. You trust that the scales are working perfectly, that nothing is being missed, that balance is being maintained. And gradually, your entire life transforms, not through effort or force, but through alignment, through living in harmony with a law that's always been operating, through working with the scales instead of against them. People notice. They can't name what's different about you, but they feel it. You carry a frequency of balance, of integrity, of energetic honesty. And that frequency is magnetic. It attracts others who operate at similar levels. It repels those who would create imbalance. Your destiny unfolds naturally, not as a struggle to achieve, but as a revealing of what was always meant to be. Because when you're in balance, when you're aligned with the law, life flows, doors open, paths clear. The universe supports what you're creating. This is the promise. Not that life becomes perfect, but that it becomes meaningful. That everything happens for a reason you can understand. That justice operates perfectly, even when it's not immediately visible. That you're never a victim, always a student, always evolving, always being led toward greater understanding through the perfect mechanism of divine balance. The figure on this ancient book, sitting in meditation, holding the golden scales in perfect equilibrium, surrounded by cosmic light, represents what you're becoming. A conscious participant in divine balance, someone who understands the law and lives in harmony with it. You've been operating under this law your entire life without knowing it. Every experience you've had, every joy and every sorrow, every gain and every loss has been the scales working, measuring, balancing, teaching, evolving your consciousness through the perfect mechanism of energetic exchange. And now you know. Now you understand. Now you can work with it consciously instead of being subject to it unconsciously. Now you can create the destiny you desire, not through manipulation, but through alignment. The law of divine balance isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. Because it means the universe is just. It means nothing is random. It means every action matters. It means you have power over your destiny through the energy you choose to emit. Give more than you take. Contribute more than you extract. Serve more than you demand service. Love more than you require love. And watch as the scales tip in your favor in ways that seem miraculous, but are simply the law operating as it always does. Clear old debts through conscious service. Create new credit through genuine giving. Balance every exchange. Honor every interaction. Live with energetic integrity. And your life becomes a testament to how the law works. You're not a victim of circumstance. You're a creator of balance. Every choice you make either contributes to equilibrium or creates debt. Every moment is an opportunity to tip the scales in your favor through conscious action aligned with truth. The scales are always working, always measuring, always ensuring that nothing remains permanently imbalanced. You can resist this and experience correction as suffering, or you can embrace it and experience it as evolution. The choice is yours. The law doesn't judge. It simply maintains balance. How you work with it determines whether you experience it as limitation or liberation. So, from this moment forward, live consciously, give freely, serve purely, contribute genuinely, balance every exchange, and trust that the scales are working in your favor, ensuring that every positive action, every generous thought, every loving contribution returns to you multiplied. This is the law, ancient, absolute, inescapable, and once you align with it, once you make it your partner rather than your adversary, it becomes the most powerful force in shaping your destiny. The scales never lie. They measure everything, they balance perfectly, and they ensure that in the end, you experience exactly what you've created, not as punishment, not as reward, but as education, as evolution, as the universe teaching itself through your experience. Welcome to conscious participation in the law of divine balance. Welcome to understanding how your destiny is shaped. Welcome to the power of living in alignment with universal justice. The scales are waiting for your next choice. What will you put on them?